Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the IHC specials, the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference 2025 specials, where we present the speakers or some of the speakers of the conference in the run-up to April 5th and 6th in Dublin. I hope to see you there. And today we have Andrew or Andy Arbuthnot, who's going to speak. we can't decide whether we're going to call him Andrew or Andy. Well, I can't. Andrew's going. So Andrew's going to speak on the topic on how to sell without being salesy, with the subtitle, Nobody Likes to be Sold to, but Everybody Likes to Buy. And to just introduce him a little bit, Andy is a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, who's been practicing for a few years. He's also worked in sales for decades.
24 years, yeah.
24 years. And he's going to introduce himself properly now. He knows all the secrets on how to sell high-class brands and how to sell sessions. There you go. Take it away, Andy.
Good evening, all. I can't see any of you, so I'll just wave and hope there's somebody there. So
there are people there, yes.
Yeah, I know. I know there are. I just can't see them. Anyway. So introducing myself. So some of you will know me and some of you won't, but I have been a salesperson, either working in sales management or just sales in general for about 20, 25 years, 24 years, something like that. And I've been a rep, I've been a brand manager, a regional sales manager, or a country manager. I've been responsible for sales teams and their budgets and their targets and their performance in various industries, and responsible for millions and millions of pounds over those years. None of those millions of pounds made it to me. So that was the thing. It's making money for other people. But anyway, it was great. I've worked with some of the world's biggest brands, biggest companies like Tom Ford, Guess, Swarovski, Xenia, Chopard, Porsche Design, Tommy Hilfiger, VW, all those different things. And over those 24 years, I've garnered a lot of experience. I know how to sell stuff. And I know how to interact with people. And most of us do. But the thing with it is there's a science behind it. And there is also a sort of a way of doing things that can sort of increase more sort of regularity and more chance of it being replicated regularly. So I'm now, as Astrid was saying, I'm a coach, I'm a hypnotherapist and a trainer. I have been doing this for 7 years now, Astrid.
7 years even.
7 years. There you go, a long time. And I've known you for a long time as well. And yes. Was that fortunately or unfortunately? But,
fortunately, of course.
Okay, of course. So within that, I've worked and trained with many people. I've worked with Freddie Jacquin. I've worked with Carl Smith, Ali Campbell, Jason Lynette, Mike Mandel, all these different people, as we all have, I'm sure. But the purpose of what my talk is at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference in April 5th and 6th is we all want more clients. And the thing with it is, whenever we get clients or get people who interact with us, we want to bring them in. So it's a case of knowing what it is and how to bring about them wanting to buy from you rather than you selling to them, because nobody likes to be sold to and nobody likes to sell, but everybody likes, well, I like to sell, but nobody likes to be sold to, but everyone loves to buy. The line you nicked off me, Astrid, but that's okay.
Sorry, I just read your subtitle.
Yeah. So with regards to that, how do we do that? So whenever nobody likes to be sold to, but everyone likes to buy, if you think about that, you've all experienced that, where you've had a salesperson who you've maybe been interacting with, and it's just not been a very pleasant experience. It's probably been a bit pushy, a bit, get away. And we've all experienced that. Now, those guys, to be fair, have probably been trained to be like that. And I know how to train people like that. And I know how to be like that. I don't enjoy it. That's how I learned. That's how I started. You learn all these different techniques and tactics about how to always be closing. A, B, C, bang, bang, bang. Hitting the nail in every time. And to be honest with you, if you hit a nail in so many times, you actually do damage. You don't get to the point where you have repeat business. And a lot of what we do as therapists, as hypnotherapists, is we want repeat business. So whenever it comes to getting someone through your door, how do you get them to want to come see you as opposed to anyone else? And how do you get them to get to the point where they really want to buy off you rather than wait for you to sell something to them? It's generally what the talk is. Now, whenever it comes to anything related to getting someone or generating a buying environment, it's all about energy levels. It's all about the right vibrations, the right vibes. So What that means is, if you think about it, well, it's not even think about it. There are studies and science behind it that basically only 7% of all communication is the words you say. Everything else is tonality, how you say it, and body language. And with the likes of that, we as hypnotists, hypnotherapists, we should know how to use body language, interpret body language, and use it to our benefit. So another thing that's important to say is stories sell. So whenever you're trying to sell something to someone, tell them what you do without actually telling them directly what you do and how you do it without selling it. Astra's eyes were interested. Yeah.
Yes, please
So,
explain that.
so very much how I do that is you want, right. So this is going to intermingle and we're probably going to go back and forth and mix about a bit because of the way this topic is. So whenever I'm saying about, you want to tell people what you do without directly selling it to them is basically what I want to say. And the way you sell something to someone indirectly is to give them almost like a sort of a narrative of experience. So either talk about what you do, your success stories, your experience, talk about your knowledge, talk about your qualifications, talk about all those things where you're basically implementing the authority principle, which we'll come into in a little while, which is part of the 6 principles of influence. You also have the principle of social proof, because you're basically telling someone about another person without giving details, without giving specifics in too much detail so that it doesn't identify anybody. So an example of that could be what I do. I have this little process whenever I get someone on a discovery call or a free consultation, as I call it. I have a set process of what I do. I explain what's going to happen if they decide to come with me, right? And what I do is I talk about left hemisphere, right hemisphere, logic, emotion, and do all that sort of stuff, and talk about the amygdala in the middle and give them a bit of science and what happens when neural pathways are set from triggering emotions or triggering situations or whatever it might be. What I then do is I go on and say, look, I talk about my friends who are hypnotists, but I also say things like this. There are certain friends of mine who won't shake my hand because of what I do, and it's like you've probably seen with hypnosis, you've seen people clucking like a chicken or people, stuck to the floor or something like that. And I do that for fun, right? I don't need that to be in a clinical setting. I do that in a bar just for the crack. And it's all the same. What is your experience or what is your impression or impersonation or interpretation, sorry, of what hypnosis is? And I ask them to give me that information. They either go, I don't know, or they say clucking like a chicken or barking like a dog or something like that. And they go, it's probably not that. And I say, it is like that. And then I said, I have friends who won't shake my hand because I can just go sleep. And I mention a couple of people that we know, right? And it is true. But with that, what I'm doing is I'm setting up in their mind the fact that I can do that. The fact that what they've seen on TV or what they've seen with Darren Brown or something like that, I can do that. And basically, you're basically giving that authority principle again of saying that this is what I can do.
So you're borrowing authority basically from Darren Brown and what they know already.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So what they know, I want them to know that I can do that. Okay. I then explain also that that's not for everybody. It doesn't work for absolutely everybody. Everybody can be hypnotized. Everyone can experience hypnosis. But it's more a case of I go into the percentages of people who are, into those direct and shock inductions and things like that. Anyway, then I go on and talk about my experiences. I give you an example. Sometimes big things are little things. Sometimes little things are big things. Okay. Then I will say that whenever it comes into, again, we go into emotion. So stories tell or sell things. Okay. So if you can get someone to feel emotive from a story you're telling, you will get them to come with you. So for instance, I talk about a girl called Sarah, right, who I helped. Now, Sarah isn't her real name. She came and saw me and she didn't tell me what it was, but whenever she came through the room, she was visibly troubled, visibly had issues, very, very sort of heavy, body language was very much, down and, in difficulty, shall we say. But anyway, whenever I brought Sarah in, I did some stuff with her that I do. I tell this story and I said, within one session, I had her leaving there laughing and joking and skipping and having a great time. So it wasn't skipping, but you get the idea. So it's like you get them at the point where she was having a great time. I also then say, she had experienced something really, really tragic and really, really horrendous, but I was able to shift that with her. So I'm also giving social proof by explaining what I've done in the past. Basically, always just layering, 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 so that the person buys into what I'm telling them without me sort of saying, "You should come and see me. You must come and see me. Why don't you come and see me?" You're not doing that. Do you know what I mean? You're not hitting that nail. So
That's all. Just to clarify, that's all in the sales call or in the call. That's not before the call. You don't have that on your website, or don't do any video. But
that's any communication I'm having with a prospect.
any direct in a call in a
Could be on a Zoom call, could be on a phone call, could be anything. I basically go through a process that is basically selling without me selling.
Okay,
So
could you do that on a website or on a video as well?
You could, but the thing is, on a video, you could, yeah. But the thing is, with that, it's not directed towards them.
Okay.
The other thing you're not doing is you're not able to then work with them in their. I'm going to get technical. You're not going to work with them in their rep system or indeed their toward or away motivation. So you're basically talking to someone cold, whereas if you're talking to someone, you're establishing what way they absorb information. If you can feed it to them in that way, it's much more powerful, much more impactful.
For those who don't know NLP, can you just explain quickly towards and away and VAK?
Yes, I was going to in a minute. Yes, of course. So explain what, sorry, VAK?
VAK and towards and away.
Okay. So basically, for those of you who don't know, basically, I've used basically quite a lot there. Simply, VAK is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So with those three rep systems, those are the way people interpret information. So you're either primarily visual, primarily auditory, or primarily kinesthetic. You can establish that by eye movement and eye accessing cues, which I can explain at a later date, but basically for the purposes of brief explanation, so we don't go on for days, which Astrid and I have a habit of doing, is
We don't go on for days.
We do go on for a long time. So yeah. It's like with the likes of, if it's more personally tailored towards something, you can garner that information by listening to the words they use, the language they use, and their eye movement. With regards to their toward and away motivation, some people are motivated by moving away from pain, and some people are motivated by getting towards a gain. And if they talk in that benefit, if someone is, say, their motivation is they want to gain something, but you're talking to them in a way that is what they'll get away from or what they'll escape if they do this, it's not going to hit with them, because in actual fact, what you're doing is you're talking them in different purposes, different directions. So you want to be able to push it in the way that they think. Yeah? Does that explain it okay?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing that I do is I also explain that the issue is never the issue. So whenever it comes to the likes of, let's say, a sales call for a therapist or a hypnotherapist, whenever you're saying the issue is never the issue, you want to be able to give examples of why that is the case. So I always use a story, and it is slightly embellished, right? Just simply for the purposes of demonstration, right? And also that authority principle. So what you've noticed is in 3 occasions, I put authority, authority, and authority. So every time what I'm doing is, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing, but I've never once said that. You get me? So the idea is you're just layering upon layering upon layering without actually selling, right? So what you're then doing is you're building up confidence in that person, in you, so that they want to come and see you. So an instance of what I use is, I was having this issue, and there's a clever little linguistic thing I do as well. So I called a friend of mine who is a very good hypnotist too. So I'm also then telling them that I'm a good hypnotist.
A very good one.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's things like that, right? I didn't say it, but I did say it, right? So the way with that is, so I won't go into the whole story about that because you don't need to know about it, but it's basically a story that I use to explain how what I do worked on me as well. Okay. And it's the process that I used to start with. I got my friend, who's a very good hypnotist too, to do a session with me. And I asked him to do my kind of session with me. because I couldn't do it on myself as effectively as someone else doing it with me. And then I got him to do that, and then it was all gone. Afterwards, I remember this thing when I was a little boy, being in primary school, wetting my trousers because of something. And in actual fact, the issue was this. But whenever I was sitting there, I got this memory flashed back into my mind. I released all the negative stuff with that, let it go. And all of a sudden, this problem was gone. That's kind of what we do. It's not necessarily what you're thinking of. And it's also then pre-framing the fact that if you're trying to say, I was doing what halfway through the session, I say, I was doing what I tell my clients not to do. I was really looking for the problem, and I couldn't find it until I realized just to let it go and focus on my breathing, focus on my internal state, whatever it was. And it just all of a sudden, this thing popped into my head, and that was that. So that's that. Now, as you're doing that, you're raising emotions. And again, with all selling, it's a bit like what, Freddie Jacquin says, raise an emotion, give a suggestion. If you do that, whenever you're in an emotive state, you're highly suggestible. But if you can raise an emotion as to why this might be, whatever their issue is, if you can bring that up and agitate that a little, and then give a solution, and you give a solution by demonstrating other people's way you've helped people, all of a sudden that resonates.
Well, you're doing two more things, actually.
I am.
Would you like to tell people? Should I?
No, we don't need to go into that because I feel like I've talked forever.
You've talked forever, yes.
Yes. So,
so you're also explaining to people the process of hypnosis, how you do it, how it works?
It's not really. No. So, sorry, in the sales, do you mean now or in the sales call?
In the sales call, not now.
In the sales call, I'm explaining how I do, and I also say whenever I'm having any communication with people, I always say I also want to have an opportunity to talk with you to demonstrate how what I do works.
Mm.
So you're basically layering again everything that you're doing. It's all positive reinforcement. So, I think that's sort of part of the answer to your question. Am I right?
Yes.
Right.
And you're also getting them to think about but the third thing you're doing in that last part is also making them think, so what could my problem be? We're not talking about regression to cause. We're talking about emotional detox, etc.
But then the other thing with that, the other thing with that, and what I'm also doing is I'm getting them to think about exactly what you've just said. I'm getting them to think about what their problem is and what they want to change. Then what I do is after all this process, I'm also building rapport. So with regards to a sales process, building rapport is key. As hypnotherapists or hypnotists or therapists or salespeople, building rapport is key. And there's various principles that help build that along. I'll go into that in a second. But with regards to, shall I? No, with regards to building rapport, obviously the things I've just mentioned a moment ago, like eye accessing cues, rep systems, also falls into that sort of matching and mirroring. So if you're not familiar with matching and mirroring, it is what it says. If someone is moving a certain way, you very subtly follow them so that it gets to the point where you can pace with them, which is follow them, but you can get to the point whenever you can actually, you follow them that many times that you're in sync, they then follow you. If that's the case, you're starting to run with the ball. So
explain, we are talking about, if I sit like this, that matching and mirroring. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you sit like that, I would sort of, first of all, it'll probably just come a bit like that. Okay. So that's matching and mirroring. So you would then, if you were to move back, I would, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it has to be done in a way where it's not like.
oh, you just moved. Yeah.
Oh, right.
We can notice. Yeah.
It's subtle matching and mirroring. Another thing that's very good in that whole thing is yes sets. So this is an old sales tactic that has been used for years. And basically you're asking questions where the only answer,
yeah, Karina says, Andrew picked up his drink and I noticed that I also picked up my drink. There you go. Yeah.
Sucker.
Works.
So...
hey, sorry.
Yes. So that would be because Astrid and I have good rapport anyway. It's one of those things where it naturally happens for some people because obviously we do match in rep systems as well. So that also helps. But anyway, yes sets. Yes sets have been used for a long, long time, and you may know what they are, you may not. But basically, all you want to do is stack questions on top of each other that the only answer that you can give is yes. So, for instance, today's been a long day. So it's like literal things like, is your name Astrid Harms?
Yes.
Are you sitting in that chair comfortably?
Oh, yes.
Cool. You just keep layering on yeses. Now, the key to that is, well, the idea behind that is, if you keep getting someone to agree with you, they're more likely to continue agreeing with you. Other little subtle things that you can do as well is, whenever you're asking the question, just be nodding. So you're nodding now, Astrid. So it's like the whole thing with it is you're bringing people along that journey. So you're getting them to do what you want to do. You're sort of molding people a little bit. All of these things, at no point have I appeared, I hope, pushy. Have I appeared pressurizing? It's all these little things that I'm just bringing out, little tricks and things that you can use. But the most important thing, and I think this is very, very important to say, above anything else, people buy from people. So if you have, well, I was going to say something that I said to you earlier, but I won't. You know exactly what that is. So, no, that's okay. That's okay. Well, I'll say it anyway. If you're an asshole, you're screwed. But basically, I'm joking. So, whenever it comes to anything to do with building rapport and things like that, use your personality, because people buy from people. If you are naturally a quiet person, use that, right? But the other thing is important to say that if the person you're speaking to is not a very quiet person, I'm not going to use the word introvert, because someone can appear to be quite quiet, but by the technical sort of definition of an introvert and an extrovert, someone can be quiet but still an extrovert. So if you listen to the likes of Simon Sinek, an extrovert is someone who goes to a social gathering or something like that and can go round everybody and it feeds them. Or an introvert would be someone who goes to that same gathering, goes around everybody and gives the impression of being very confident and all the rest of it. But in actual fact, it kills them. It drains them. So if someone gets a feed off, so it doesn't necessarily, that's why I'm not using the word introvert and extrovert. If you're sort of if your demeanor is more, talking a bit like this and maybe a little bit more softly spoken, that's good. But the other thing you need to learn is how to raise it. Now, there's things that I do and things that I train people to do, which is about stretching comfort zones. I do courses on it. It's bloody horrible, but it works. Okay. So the idea with it is, a comfort zone is basically an area where you don't want to do something. But if you get into that state, which you know you need to do, and you can stretch it, that never goes back. Never goes back. So the point of what that is, if you are able to bring yourself, I think one of the things I was taught a long time ago, which I really enjoyed as a saying and hated as a practice, is learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Learn that. Well, one of the key tactics with sales and things like that is, to quote my father, who was a principal of a school, you know what's coming next.
I know.
You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that ratio. So the fact is, you need to listen more, talk less, so that you're getting as much information as possible. But the other thing as well is, whenever you ask someone a question, which could be, for this instance, let's say a closed question, which is asking for business, right? Learn how to shut up and not say anything. Because whenever it comes to that point in the conversation, whenever you've given all this information, or you've had the discourse, and I'm skipping out bits, but I'll come back to it. Whenever you get to the end of a conversation where it's just demonstrating how get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're sort of saying to someone, okay, Astrid, you've come to see me because of X, right? You've said to me, X is causing you X, Y, and Z. Yes? That's a yes set question. Okay. Then you're going, okay, so you've also said that you want to do this because you're fed up with this.
Yes.
Yes, but also an away from motivation. So if you've said, I don't want this anymore, and you're talking back to them on that level with a yes set, stacking, right? So let's say you do that a few more times. Let's say once or twice more. with different questions, with the information you get. And I'll go into how to get that in a second. But whenever it comes to the likes of that stage, whenever you say, wouldn't it be great if you could find an answer to all those problems right here, right now with me? Wouldn't it be great if you could just put all that aside, leave it in the past, and come do something with me? Isn't that something that you would like to do?
I would, of course, say yes.
Or that's something that's a better way of asking it, actually, is that's something you'd rather like to do, isn't it?
That does sound a bit, yeah, okay.
That's a better way of asking it. But that's a tag question. So the thing with it is, with a tag question, you've given a statement that is true or not true, but a statement. And what you do then is put at the end of it, isn't it? Wouldn't it? Isn't that right? Wouldn't you agree? All those things at the end, so that even if the statement is true or not true, you still have to acknowledge the statement to actually comprehend what it is, to agree or disagree with it. Now, if you were to look at the likes of I feel like I'm going on, Astrid. I feel like I'm taking over.
You are. Well, I'm free range, Andrew. Go ahead.
It's not like me to talk. I'm usually shy, quiet, and retiring.
Of course you are.
Yeah, I usually talk like this.
I'll ask a few questions in a moment, but
no, that's fine. I saw something pop up there, but what was I going to say? Yes, so a brief sales process. So one of the things that's important, and people need a process. It doesn't have to be a tick box exercise, right? It's knowing, and you can flick between these bits and pieces all the time, right? Doesn't matter as long as you do them in an order.
Repeat the order again which ones they were, because it's kind of gone from memory, I think.
I haven't done them yet.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
haven't said them. Haven't said them yet, right? And it might be something that I sort of pop into the group after, okay? But it's not necessarily, but it's not bullet points. It's not something like that. It's more a process that if you follow this sort of framework, it's not even a tick box. If you follow the framework, you can get a lot further than if you didn't, okay? And it works in many industries. And this is something that I've used throughout the years, just generally. It's been called different things. I've learned it from different corporate businesses, and I've adapted it to myself. But the first part of the process, which we've talked about already, is build rapport, okay? Make the person like you, right? Again, that's the first principle of influence, liking and likability, right? I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second, because it's not as simple as that. But then you have the next part of the process, which is ask open questions. Now, if you don't know what open questions are, you probably do. But if you don't, an open question is anything that starts with who, what, where, why, when, why, how, right? Because
you the other way around. They're not questions that you could answer with yes or no.
Bingo. That's my point.
You may continue.
Thank you. I was getting there, Astrid. So whenever it comes to that, so the idea is, if you ask those questions, you cannot give, well, if someone starts a question with when, it's very hard to, I'm trying to structure this in my mind as I'm talking to you, because I had one with somebody the other week when I was doing stuff for this. So I think what the question was, what they said, but generally, if you start a question with who, what, where, why, when, how, it's very difficult to say yes or no to. What you do with an open question is you get someone to open up, because you want to find out what their pain points are. You want to know what their reason for talking to you is, what their reason for coming to see you is, what their reason for whatever, right? I'm trying to remember what this question was, but it was something like when, it was something like, when you last went to the gym, was it night or day? So it's a binary answer. It was nighttime. It's daytime. It doesn't really give you a scope to feed off. So you want to try and structure your open questions so that you can extrapolate as much information as you want. Extrapolate, that's a big word for me. So you wanted to get it so you can extrapolate as much information out as you want. Now, the most important part about this is write down what they say, right? Not only does it look professional because you're attentively writing things down, it means you don't have as much opportunity to forget, okay? And Once you've got that sort of information, once you get stuff written down, it's very, very easy to feed off. And one of the things I like to do is little like spider diagrams or things like that. If someone gives me an answer, I then feed off by asking another question, which is led from the information that I get in this little bubble. Then I want to go and feed off with another feeder question, or a threading question, as it's called. So you want to then be able to pull, because what you're doing is pulling threads, right? So you want to try and get to the point where you get as much information as possible, and then you have 5 or 6 points that you can then go, these are pain points. These are things they want to change. And it can be the next part, toward or away motivation. So if someone is talking that they want to be more healthy because they're fed up of feeling tired all the time, they're fed up of being breathless, is that towards or away?
They're fed up, away.
Yep.
From?
So if you talk to them that, well, if you do my weight loss program, or if you come and see me, or you go and do this, you'll feel amazing because you're going to be able to have all these things. The thing I'm trying to say is, if you are talking to them in a way of what will be gained as opposed to what they're going to get away from, it's not going to hit as well as if you do this, well, you're not going to feel like that anymore, because that's a different way of looking at it. The next part of the session is, or the process is, be prepared. Okay. So I know I've said this as like the 3rd or 4th point down, right? Doesn't matter, because whenever you're there, you're halfway through. Be prepared is stay prepared. So beforehand, what I mean by that is, whenever you're prepared beforehand, you can't prepare beforehand fully, because you don't know what's going to be said, right? So it's the same as in a sales conversation. If you're going into someone, say I go in to see someone and I'm trying to sell them something, and I think they're going to be, again, this is positive mindset, I think they're going to be receptive to me. I think they're going to want to talk to me, right? And you walk through the door and they shut the door or they close the book and they tell you to get out, and they swear at you and they put you out the door, right? Be prepared for that outcome. Be prepared for a no. Be prepared for obstacles, right? So if that happens, stay calm. Yeah. Next part is know your desired outcome. So when you're prepared, you know your desired outcome. If something doesn't go exactly how you planned, have a plan B in your head.
So make that a bit more tangible.
Make it a bit more tangible.
In regards to a client in a sales call. Yeah, in a discovery call.
Got a discovery call.
Yeah.
So if they're starting to back away from you, and if they're getting to the point where they feel you're selling, which they probably won't, but sometimes people just aren't ready. If you're able to ask, if they are going down a route of maybe not the way you want them to, and it seems like they're just backing away, sometimes let them back away, right? Because then if they feel they have the option to back away, sometimes it's just a lack of control that they're feeling. Whereas if you let them feel like they're in control, they'll come back again. But the thing with it is, be prepared and know your desired outcome. You have to be flexible. So it's one of those things where, by using your sensory acuity, if you're able to read someone a bit and go, they're not loving what I'm doing, back off. Back off. If they're feeling like you could move in a bit, push a bit harder, right? That only comes with practice, right? And that comes with stuff that I teach. So, yeah, I know I don't want to give too much away. So it's that where we're at. But anything you want to ask me before I go on to the next point?
Yes, practical. Make it practical. How do you pull away? How do you back off? I'm with a client on Zoom, let's say. Okay, so give me an example.
So you're talking to give me an example of you not being ready to come with me, or feeling a little bit sort of standoffish.
Well, I don't know whether I have the money. I'll have to look at
that. That's okay. The thing with it is, whenever you're ready for it, and if you notice my tonality drops, and that's okay. The thing with it is, it's an investment, and we've talked about the word investment before. And whenever you're ready to do whatever it is you want to do, I know I can help you. Like I've demonstrated to you already, a lot of people that I've helped, and how I work and how things work for you. Whenever you're ready, if it is a financial thing, I'm here. And if you're ready, let's do it. Sometimes if it is a financial thing, it is a financial thing. But also, if it gets to the point where you changing your tonality and not going, you know, oh, I have payment plans, or I have, which you can do, right? You know, you have things like that. Make them feel like it's, you know, a lot of people say that to me. And a lot of people, whenever they say that, and most people, when they say there's maybe an issue with finances or something like that, they realize that whenever they find the money, they find the answer to what they wanted to feel like.
Sorry, say that again.
Did it break up?
No.
No.
Just didn't
So
understand.
I use words which are designed to be slightly confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Because in actual fact, what do you do whenever you're trying to, certain forms of inductions, what do you do? Confusion.
No, go back again to that sentence. Just repeat it, please.
I can't remember what I said now. But
whenever you find the money.
yes. So whenever people I've spoken to before, something like when most people have come to me and said that they found that it was an issue with cash flow, they did find the money. And whenever they found the money, they found that they were able to feel like how they wanted to feel like.
Oh, that's a sentence you say to the client.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's again just slightly confusing, but you're also just the most important thing to say about it is, because if you come at it, especially with price, I often find, because I've sold really expensive stuff, and there always is like an issue with price, right? Because if something, like, I'll give you an example. I still do work with the eyewear industry, right? And some of the stuff that I work with there's a range, there's a brand called Chopard, right? Very expensive jewelry, right? So they sponsor the Cannes Film Festival, they sponsor motor races, they do all sorts of stuff like that. But you can get to the pair of glasses, let's say, for, I don't know what it would be. Well, it doesn't matter in euro, right? But let's say you can get a pair of glasses for 70 quid, right? You go to Specsavers, you can get a pair of glasses for 70 quid. I have your cat's out again. But the thing with it is, I have some glasses that I sell which retail at 3,500 quid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's an issue and a difference between the 70 quid and the 3,000 quid. But whenever someone goes, oh, you sort of have to go, yeah, I understand that. But the person who's going to buy this doesn't care. The person who's going to buy this likes, and name off the things that are beneficial. They like this, they like that, they like how it makes them feel, they like how other people will look at them, all these different things. That is still the same whenever you're talking about what we do. Because, you know, whenever it comes to, and I am always very cautious about whenever it comes to price, because sometimes when it comes to price, people can be price sensitive. Yeah. And that can be an issue. Having said that, one of the ways around it is to soften off, right? Just go, yeah, I understand that. That's okay. But whenever people do finally come and make the investment to come and see me, they notice that it was worthwhile, or something like that. I'm making crap up as we speak. But it's always different per person, and everybody's different, because you can't really sort of do it unless it's real. But one of the things I always play on, and this is what I'm getting at, and I hate the word play on, but it is kind of what you have to do. And I haven't demonstrated it there, but basically what you then do is refer back. You go, okay, that's fine. No problem. Austin, and you say no problem, right? Because you want to reinforce the fact that it's not a problem, right? So say no problem. If you want to and this is where you can be a little bit salesy, right? But it's sometimes with a price objection, it's not really a real objection. So whenever it gets to the point where you say, right, okay, well, I remember you said you didn't want to feel like that anymore, and you were fed up of feeling this, and you were fed up of feeling that, and you were fed up of feeling that. That's right, isn't it?
It goes, yes, said again, yes.
Okay, so you just repeat the process. And then you get to the point, well, you know, really, is that worth staying like that? Can you afford?
Oh, no, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't just let them go.
Well,
That
okay.
is salesy.
That's salesy. That's generally what it is with price. It's not the real objection. If they say, well, okay, they'll find a way. But with the likes of that, if you don't want to do that, back away, right? If you haven't done enough to convince them, right? But this is an interesting thing. Price is only ever an issue in the absence of value.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at that is you haven't done enough demonstrating what you can do. Now, having said that, there are some people you will never get, right? Because whenever it comes to um, objections, some people just aren't ready, you know? And I understand that. You can say, yes, I understand. So here's another way to look at objection handling is that this is an objection. So if you get someone who is objecting on price, one of the things that's very important to use, and I did it a little bit there, but I'm going to demonstrate in a slightly different way. Whenever it comes to an objection with price, forget the word but and use the word and. So whenever someone says, what did you say to me?
Uh,
Make something up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right?
I don't have the money right now. I don't
Okay.
know.
So
Okay.
you basically say, I understand that you don't have the money right now, and that's okay. And a lot of people who have seen and helped recently also said that they didn't have the money. And when they actually found a way of coming to see me, they realized that all their problems disappeared. So what I've done is I have not used the word but, because whenever you use the word but, it negates everything that goes before it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say the word but, well, I understand you have the money, but you've basically said, yeah, but that.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if you use their words back to them, now I understand that right now you don't have the money.
Mm.
And everything you say after that sort of bolts onto that as a solution, as a sort of a, you know, as a
Logical follow-up.
yeah, you know, and that's kind of the words I'm looking for. You know, the day I've had, so it's like
I know.
my brain isn't working. So but yeah, so things like that, whenever it comes to objections, use their words back to them. That's the main point to say. So it could be anything, right? And I've sort of gone off on a tangent there, but whenever it comes to forget the word but, use the word and, but use their words directly back to them. I understand. Be empathetic. Okay. And
Mm.
whenever you're empathetic to someone, because maybe it is that problem, you know, because if you're coming to see someone and, you know, you're going to spend 150, 200 quid on a session, they might be a little bit concerned that it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, you haven't done enough prior to. Okay. So I give you a case in point. I had a guy who came to see me last Saturday, the guy I told you about earlier. He was like, oh, right, how much is it? Oh, I don't really have the cash right now. So do you mind if I book it in the new year or whatever it was? I said, yeah, that's fine. No problem. So I gave him the option. He came back to me 2 days later and went, I want to come and see you. Right. He booked in. He also then was with me last week and he said, can I pay you half now and half after? And I was like, yeah, of course you can. So he came half now, half after. I then saw him. He came back to me 2 days ago, says, I want to see you on Saturday. I'll pay you up front.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really the issue because as opposed to not being able to pay for one session, he's now paying for two. So he's spending £300 with me when he said he didn't have the money, right? The back off sort of tactic can work as long as you make them feel like you're not pushing them. Sometimes they'll back down and go, right, well, okay. You know, whereas sometimes it's just a way of, if you back off, the best thing to do with that is go back into and explain the whole thing about what you do again. Give more examples, social proof again. So
Yep.
to give you an example or some examples of what the principles of influence are, right? I feel very much like I've just talked forever. So if you want to jump in, jump in. But you know, with regards of the principles of influence, it's a guy called Robert Cialdini. He's a psychologist, and he's many people will be familiar with him. But he's a scientist, and he basically did a psychologist, and he did some research on what influences people. And he spent time with top salespeople, and he spent time with all sorts of different walks of life. And the 6 principles that he found were liking, reciprocity, social proof, authority, consistency, and scarcity. These 6 principles all work on a subconscious level, if you like, on a primal level, to help us drive or help us drive a sale or drive an influence situation if we are the person trying to do so. So, would you like me to go into those?
Quickly, but what I would like to here is make it a bit more tangible for therapists who are just starting out and don't have all the sales experience and the social proof that you were talking about. How would you deal with that?
Okay.
How would you make it? Well, dumb it down a bit. Whatever you've said
You
in the
probably
last hour, half
is
hour.
it an hour?
No, so now it's we
Jeez.
start. No, it's about 50
40
minutes,
minutes. Okay.
45, yeah. So
Sorry.
could you just dumb it down a bit for
Okay.
yeah, for
So
people who are
what
not
I
in
would say
sales,
so
basically.
what I would suggest is this. Go buy his book, right? I'm not an affiliate. I'm not getting anything from it. It's one of these things that if you understand the principles, it's really, really cool that you can use them in different ways. So first principle is liking. Now, what that means is similarity, compliments, physical attraction, and contact and cooperation. So those are the sort of key elements within that. And there's also conditioning and association. Within within those five different Karina, influenced by Robert Cialdini, Cialdini.
I just put the
So,
name. I just put the name and the two of his books in. Yeah, into the
oh,
chat.
you've got
Yeah.
persuasion as well.
Persuasion and
Yeah,
influence. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So, with the likes of liking, what they're doing is people. With the first element of liking is similarity. So, what that means is people like who they are like. Okay, so if you are, yeah, that goes into matching and mirroring. It goes into all that stuff. If you can make yourself appear to be like them, or have similar interests, or have similar things in common, great. Compliments. It's very important, and this is from years of experience. Don't use physical compliments, right? Like, oh, your bum looks good in those trousers,
So does
right?
mine. Sorry.
But don't use things like that.
No.
It's simple things like, compliment their choices.
Oh,
If
compliment, not
yeah, yeah.
compliment. Okay, yeah.
No, compliments. So for instance, if you're with them and you're doing a Zoom call, for instance, or let's say they're in person, if you like a bag they have, or if you like a watch they have, make compliment on that and be like, I really like that bag. It's lovely. That's really nice.
Mm.
And then move on quickly, right? Don't linger with it. Just move on quickly. You're complimenting their choice. Physical attractiveness. Now, this does not mean being the best looking person in the room. It means being fit for the role. So if you were, let's say, working in the agriculture industry, walking into a building site, with Tom Ford shoes and Gucci belt and Gucci shoes, whatever it is, probably not going to be received so well. But if you walk in a body warmer, a t-shirt that's ripped jeans and dirty old cat boots, they'll probably listen to you. Get me?
Mm-hmm.
Contact and cooperation is just enough sort of contact. Any contact you have is meaningful and helpful. Someone like that. And then conditioning and association is basically the likes of when brands use, let's say like Nike using Tiger Woods or whatever else, it's like that. So reciprocity is the second principle. Reciprocity basically, as
Wait,
it
back
said.
to Tiger Woods. How do I use that in
So
therapy?
okay, good point. It's basically things like that, which is another way of doing that is potentially by using the stories of how you've helped other people.
Mm-hmm.
You could
Right.
use that as well. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I would say is we've all, even whether you're practicing, whether you're starting, whether you will all have some experience of success and some experience of helping somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Use that. It doesn't need to be the fact that it was a paying client, or it doesn't need to be the fact that it was whatever. It could be someone that you've just helped. Demonstrate how you've done that without giving their name, without giving specifics. Embellish slightly so that you can give a story that basically helps form that image in that person's mind, is that you are the right person to help me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can I move on now?
Yeah, yeah.
Great. So the third one is social proof. Now we all know about social proof. It's whether it's testimonials or that type of thing. Again, with the likes of that, you can always ask someone for testimonials. You can always ask someone for that. You can demonstrate what you do. You can also demonstrate social proof by telling a story about how you've helped someone, as a third-party relay, right? Authority, be the expert. Okay, talk about your knowledge, talk about what you know, talk about how you help people. That hurt. So it's like whenever you do that, demonstrate what you know. Whenever it comes to seeing someone, again, it's an interesting thing that a friend of ours was talking to me about, and one of the things that he does in every call as a hypnotherapist is he demonstrates hypnosis. He demonstrates lemon. He demonstrates levitation. He demonstrates sticking hands together. All of those things. And the interesting thing about it is, even if it doesn't go the way you want it to, they don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
and you can flip it round. But you're demonstrating, and I am in charge. I know what I'm doing. That's what I wanted to happen. That type of thing. Consistency and commitment. Just being, do what you say what you do. That type of thing. And another thing with that is sometimes with that part, it's basically more about getting them to commit rather than you being committed. Because it's all very well saying, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But if they're not committed to doing it as well, you don't have the same response. You don't have the same outcome.
Yeah.
And then obviously scarcity, I'm going as fast as I can, Astrid. But it's like with scarcity, you've got that FOMO, fear of missing out, a limited time offer, only available for limited number of places, only available till, Rolex do it brilliantly. Ferrari do it well as well. Certain Rolex watches you have to be invited to buy. Certain Ferraris you have to be invited to buy. They make limited numbers of certain things. Okay. So that's where those principles are sort of ideas of what it is. But what you can do is once you learn what they are, you can learn how to apply it to your own business. You can
I have a question. So as a therapist, I would, scarcity would work like I've only got limited spots this week or next week,
yes.
or I can book you in this week, but only on this date, for example.
Yes. So if you look at my website, elveratmind.com, you can book an online consultation. I only have 2 nights in the week that I can do that. I also say underneath, I do have other slots available if you, but every week is different. I'm busy every week. These are the 2 nights that I keep free for 2 hours for this very reason. It creates a little bit of, oh, right, you must be busy, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
So guys, don't have your entire calendar open for appointments, not from 9 to 9.
No, and I would put a little caveat underneath, from time to time, I have people drop out. Cancellations happen occasionally, but you also have a cancellation policy, right? So that it's not encouraging people to cancel. But the idea is whenever you have that, when you've got 4 slots in a day or 4 slots of an evening, make it 2 and say, look, there are times what it would be good. And it encourages then the people to contact you. And it's much more beneficial to have them contact you so you can talk to them, because you might even get, instead of getting a free consultation, you might go from conversation to session. It cuts out that step.
Yeah.
So any questions?
Any questions?
How am I going to limit this to an hour in April?
I don't know. Well, we're not at an hour yet, and it didn't give away everything in the presentation.
No, I didn't.
Oh, of course not. I have one comment from Guy. If you have questions, guys, and I know you're probably overwhelmed like I am.
Sorry.
A comment from Guy from earlier about the comfort zone. I much prefer the aeronautical idea to stretch the envelope than what's often suggested to leap completely out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Oh, Karina wants to know, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. What is your conversion rate, Andrew?
Of what?
Of probably discovery calls to sessions.
It's nearly 100%.
Nearly.
There's always 1 or 2 that you don't get. Also, there's the people that you don't want, you have to be able to turn away. Like to give you an example, and I used this example, and in fact, there was one the other day. There was a lady who contacted me because she wanted me to work on her 3-year-old son.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right? So I was like, anything I can do to put away. The other one, it was contraindicated, had schizophrenia in the family. I didn't want to do that. But whenever it comes to, it's John and I have had this conversation, and it's generally whenever someone comes on the phone to me, they're coming to see me. And I mean that without sounding arrogant. I really don't mean to sound arrogant at all. It's not, there are people who are going to be, and it's important to say, don't expect to get everybody. The interesting thing to say is this, and sometimes it's better to let a fish go because you can catch a bigger fish. So, for instance, I have one person in particular who had 5 conversations with me on the phone, and she wanted me to sell her hypnotherapy. She wanted me to convince her to come. And I do not, who are the suckers that pay? What? I do not want...
Who pays £3,000 for a pair of sunglasses? I'll read them out to you. You don't have to read.
Enough.
Right? Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yes, so I've lost my train of thought. Yes, no. So I had one person where she wanted me to try and convince her to come and see her. And I didn't, because it's just not what I wanted to do. It wasn't right. She wasn't ready, and it was clear that she wasn't ready. But the thing with it was, she sort of said, yes, I'll try. There were other things in there that probably needed medical attention. So I suggested that she go and speak to her GP first.
Hmm.
And at that point, she went away. I had spent probably half an hour, 40 minutes with her chatting.
Hmm.
And at that point, she was expecting me to try and reel her in, you know, and I could tell that she wasn't quite right for it. But the thing with it was, she has sent me about 4 or 5 clients because she liked how I worked with her. Because
Nice.
she was expecting me to be pushy. She was
Mm.
expecting me, right, I can book you in here. I'm just being straight to the jugular. And I wasn't. So sometimes it's important, if you're feeling it's not going your way, let it go.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
Let it go.
definitely. Yeah.
And that's the thing, because sometimes it'll come back 10 times, but that's something that you only learn with experience.
Mm. So you don't count in those 100%, obviously you don't count the ones who are contraindicated or you don't want to work with.
Correct.
Good. Okay. Right. That's a relief.
Mhm. And to be honest, I do get quite a few that I don't want to work with. Like there was 2 last week who I just didn't want to work with because it was things I didn't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do weight loss normally. I don't do
I don't do weight loss either, and that's what it was.
weight release.
Can't
Okay.
stand it.
There's another question. They may say, or a comment. They may say it's about price, but it could be that they genuinely don't gel with us after meeting and chatting with us. And so you're
Correct.
spot on, just back off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So how can we prevent that? By, for example, having YouTube videos. Are you on YouTube actually, Andrew?
So the answer to that is, I have a YouTube channel.
Oh, yes, we did discuss that, didn't we? Yes.
The answer also to that, the second part of the answer to that is, I think there's 1 or 2 videos on it. I'm
Okay.
not very good at doing that. I need to get better
Okay.
at that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I started off better, and now yeah. The other thing I find interesting about that is, and this is my own style, is like whenever I see someone who comes to see me, and most of the people I see are for anxiety or for phobias or for stress,
Mm.
they do not want people to know they've had a problem.
Yeah.
So for me to get that, I know that certain people that we've both trained with and we're friendly with, who put it into a contract that we record the sessions and we have the free will and the right to share it how we wish.
Hmm.
I don't do that because I wouldn't like that.
Hmm.
And that's the reason. So if I did it with everybody, I could put loads of videos up.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just the answer to that.
Um, okay, Karina, sorry to ask, why don't either of you do weight loss, weight release? I'm intrigued. It's because you don't need, is it because you don't need to because you are so busy or you do not like doing it? I don't like it because there's usually, well, as Andrew said, the issue is never the issue. It's never weight loss. I work with mind-body issues. So that's mainly tinnitus, which I'm going to be speaking on at the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, and mind-body issues, autoimmune diseases, that's migraines, that's arthritis, all of those things that have to do with, that we can actually influence with hypnosis, scientifically proven because I'm a nerd. And usually I will get some weight release with that. So I don't address weight loss as an issue on its own, and I just don't like smoke.
I don't like it either. And generally what I do is I treat it as either a self-esteem issue or an emotional issue. And I will work
Stop
on
smoking.
that. No,
Smoking.
sorry, no,
Oh,
weight
wait.
loss. Sorry.
Okay.
Did
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
say smoking?
The last thing I said was still smoking, but you're
Oh,
talking.
no,
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't hear that. No, I don't like doing weight loss either, because whenever it comes to that, well, I still do it, but I vet the clients very, very, very carefully,
Mm.
because I have had people in the past, and this is the thing. It's when it comes to weight loss, there's a bit more to it than just bang bang, right?
Yeah.
Whereas there has to be a bit more of an education as well, because I've had one person email me, she didn't even phone me, emailed me a week and a half after her first session saying, I haven't lost any weight.
Hmm.
Right. So generally, £2 a week is normal. But the thing with it is, in some instances, she didn't really need to lose a lot of weight. So it was an emotional thing,
Hmm.
but it just was something I don't like, because they think it happens like that, and it doesn't, you know. That's one of the reasons why I don't like it.
It doesn't give you instant results, basically.
I just don't like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's why.
Talking about going back to the sales,
Hmm.
can we just put those things, or would that be too long? All those things, it's hard to learn, or it's hard to grasp, like listening to you. Can we put those into a quick sales call?
What
Like
things in?
therapy. So, okay, I'm your client. I've come to you because I've got anxiety.
Okay, so what's the best way
Let's
to
just
go about?
play it through.
Okay.
Is that okay?
So
2 minutes.
yeah. So basically, rapport. Get someone at ease as fast as possible. Make them laugh. Make them giggle. I missed one. I use pattern interrupts a lot.
Oh.
Right. So pattern interrupts are quick subject changes, quick diversion tactics, which is basically just derail someone. I use that a lot. And often then use something that makes them chuckle or laugh or say something a bit silly. Now, I'm not going to say something that's ridiculous. I'll say something because generally everybody has a way of using humor. Okay. Just get someone a little more at ease. Okay.
That's what you use pattern interrupts for, to get them at ease.
Yeah. Well, partly, but it's so. Let me. I'm on an aside here. So if you want to put into a process, you build rapport. So you want to match a mirror. You want to learn all those things about them. Get as much information as you can, whether that be direction of travel of their thought process, their rep system, if you can, so you can talk to them in that. I'm going into too much detail, I know, but it's like, so build rapport. Snappy and punchy, build rapport, right? Ask open questions, right? So ask questions where they cannot say yes or no to. So if you can get someone to answer a question where they give you more information, and if you can, then thread off it. The threading thing is cool, but the thing is, if you get to the point where you have an open question asked, and they're starting to give you information, listen. Just listen, because the thing is, they'll give you information. What I could do is I could throw it into a little like crib sheet, and we could pop it in here. But basically, build rapport, ask open questions, find their towards and away motivation, and be prepared within that for something to go wrong. Refer back to what they've said. So get as much information as you can from the open questioning. Whenever they give you something, they might give you a snippet of something. It could be a towards and away from. Pull off it, right? Go somewhere else, and just. Whenever you're writing it down, like what I often do is, if I'm having a conversation with someone, they'll say X, and then I have this, and off this, there's maybe, you see that, 3 or 4 different things that are a feed off from this, and then I can then feed off from others, and it's basically just so you have a natural progression of moving through what they're saying. You look bored, Astrid, and then
whenever an interrupt right there.
Yep. Whenever you come to the point of you've got the information that you want, know your desired outcome, know what you want, know what they want, and then at that point, anything, if there's a little bit of no, you don't need to go that far. Refer back to what they've said. Just reinforce the reasons what they've said. So if it's pain points, you don't want to feel like this, or you'd like to feel like this, just reasons why. Feed it back to them. And then use closed questions. So you said you don't want to feel this way. Wouldn't it be great if we could do this? So it's yes or no, right? With the likes of that, if it's a yes or no, ask the question in the way you want it to be answered. So if you want a yes, ask a question where you can get a yes. If structure it in such a way. And that just takes a bit of practice. And then whenever you're doing, you want to know, structure it in a way that you get a no, right? Handling objections. If something comes up, basically remember, I understand that, and not I understand, but, because you're basically going, but, and it just gets the mind to block, right? So, and anything you put after the and generally feeds in softer and actually becomes a solution, right? But then you can go back to the point of saying, well, look, isn't it true that you felt this way? Yes. And you just repeat the process and you feed it back to them. How would it feel if this just kept, what's that say? How much do you give them? Can't see that.
I'll read that to you in a minute.
Yeah, that's fine. So, but just go back through the process again. You don't need to go to the top because you've built rapport. If you haven't built rapport, you're having a sticky day. Yeah. But that's basically in a nutshell what a brief sales process is. It's just bang, 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 build rapport, ask questions, find their motivations, find out what it is they want, refer back to what it is they want and don't want, close it down. So you can say, well, you don't want this, isn't that right? Boom, close it. Then if they give you an objection, go back up to the point of what they said they didn't want or wanted, and find out what they would like to feel like or how they don't want to feel. Go back through it again. basically, in a nutshell, that's where you're at. And then at the end of it, just ask them a question. Wouldn't it be, or something like, wouldn't it be good if you could feel like this from tomorrow or whenever you have your session?
Yeah.
And just basically shut the up
Mm.
and wait for them. Because the person who
How long
speaks
do you wait?
first,
How long do you wait? How long do you wait?
I don't, it's the person who speaks first loses.
Oh, so how many minutes do you normally go, or seconds?
Depends. But I just sit there. And you get, because my wife will say, you can go through uncomfortable things and sit there and it looks like you're not bothered. I am bothered, but at the same time, I don't show I'm bothered.
Mm.
And I get comfortable with it. So you're sitting there, and I know that it's like, especially in a sales environment, if I'm sitting there where I'm trying to get someone to do something, and I ask the question, I ask for the business, I ask for the sale, and I just shut up.
Mm. Yeah. Well, I have to interrupt it because we're on a
I would have stood there for ages.
Yeah, I know.
I'd have wet myself.
How long? But how long on average do you wait? I mean,
you can't ask that question because it's different for everybody. Generally,
yeah,
it's not very long.
anything
Right?
between 2 seconds and yeah, okay, good. Right.
Generally, it's not very long. If you've done it, generally, if you've done a good enough job of demonstrating how you can help someone, they're sort of going, well, I'd like to come and see you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
good.
that's
Great.
generally.
One more
I don't
question.
mean
Yeah.
that to sound in any way arrogant. I don't, but there we go.
Well, you've been in sales for 24 years.
And
Well,
there is a lot of practice with it. There is a lot of
it's
practice
not
with
arrogant, it's competent. You could say.
Correct. Yes.
How
My
much?
wife would disagree.
That's what she's a wife for. Charles says, how much do you give them, demonstrate for them before you begin the ask? Would you go as far as a free first session?
No. So basically, I put aside a half an hour session for a free consultation.
Mhm.
On occasion, I have run over that.
Over
Right?
half an hour.
Over half an hour. But the whole point of it is if someone is, generally I will give someone 45 minutes if they need 45 minutes to be convinced, right?
Mhm.
But it's at the point where if I'm not getting anywhere, I probably won't get anywhere because I'll decide I don't want them, right?
Mhm.
But and you'll know who you want and who you don't want, you know.
Yeah.
But the people that I know I can help, sometimes if you need to give them a bit more, they have a lot of questions. Let them ask the flipping questions.
Yeah.
You know, and if it's a case of 45 minutes, fine, I don't care. Generally, if it's 45 minutes and they book in for 3 sessions.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I usually have 15 minutes. That's most of the time that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Overrun. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You have shorter ones as well. So you don't have to set aside 30 minutes.
So I set aside 30 minutes. Often it's quicker.
Yeah.
But I do like to use half an hour because I charge reasonable amount and I
Mhm.
want people to experience value. Because I said before, whenever it comes to price, it's only generally an issue in the absence of value. So if you can demonstrate value,
Yeah.
you're 90% of the way there.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So if somebody wants to learn this and they cannot come to the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference, which we hope
Mhm.
they do,
Yep.
because that's what we're running these sessions for,
Mhm.
how would they be able to learn this? Like,
Okay. So firstly, I would say it's hugely beneficial if you're a therapist, hypnotherapist, or wanting to learn something like this, and this is why we're doing this call, is come to the Hypnotherapy Conference in Ireland. I went 2 years ago. I met some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, people that I now know are lifelong friends, people who I have relationships with that are just amazing, right?
Mhm.
And that includes some of the initial speakers as well,
Yeah.
people that I now call friends. And they're world-renowned people. Yeah. The thing with it is, whenever you come there, I went, and in the first year, my confidence went through the roof,
Yeah.
through the roof. And I went and I just went boom, because I had confidence in myself to do this type of work. So it's not a big investment because what you get with it is incredible. So for the 2 days, which is the 5th and 6th of April, you get to see 30 speakers. 28 of them are good.
Well, you, of course, nah. Of course.
I'm so funny. Then within that, on the Saturday night, you get dinner, you get lunch on both days, and you get tea and coffee unlimited, right? But until the 29th of this month, it's €299. After that, it goes up to 330. It would be good if we could see more people there, because John Scanlon has really done a great job of getting some of the world's best, and I mean some of the world's best speakers, and I exclude myself from that. The comedian mentioned Kyle, Freddie, etc. Okay.
You did
It's like I'm on my phone and I keep seeing things flop off.
Yeah.
Flick up. And I have my glasses on, but it doesn't help. Anyway, with regards to that, if you wanted to learn something like that and you weren't going to the conference, well, if you are going to the conference, and one of the prerequisites of what I've said with this, I do teach this in a course. And I have a course that is of over £3,000 worth of value, because of the amount of extras that come with it and the amounts that are in there. But we do it at 147 quid. Right? If you decide to come to the conference, you get it for 50% off. And you can learn all the things that I'm talking about in more detail, in a more structured, in a more easily explained way, as Astrid kept telling me, So, but the thing with it is, but yeah, within that, there's also a hypnosis recording, which helps with confidence and things like that. There's a lot in it. So that's where you could learn that. I will share that with your group if you wish. People can find it that way. They'll probably see it floating about on an advert sometime soon as well. But yeah, and the other thing is, if someone ever wants to have a conversation with me, I'm open to a conversation. It's fine.
Wonderful. So the question is, the comedian, I guess that's you, mentioned Carl, Freddie, etc. earlier. Who did Andrew train with? I'm not sure whether the comedian is you.
No, it's you. It's you. Definitely you.
Oh, that's me.
So yes, I've trained with Freddie. I've trained with Carl. I've trained with Ali Campbell. I've trained with Mike Mundell. I've trained with Jess and Lynette. I have, who else? I can't remember. Loads. But yeah, we all generally, once you get into it, you get hooked, and you just start looking at different things. But really, it's all the same.
It is. But in the beginning, you do need to learn various techniques and ways of doing things.
Yeah. But it is, basically, it's all the same sort of thing. As our pal Carl says, there's nothing new in this business. It's just learning what works for your client. And that is the key to it all. But the easiest way to get someone in front of you is to know how to bring them in. So basically, all sales is about one thing: change. Getting them from this point to that point in an easy, smooth fashion.
That's right. And with that, I think
mic drop.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. So guys, come to the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference. You've been sold, I think. I was just waiting for the break, for the pause, like after you said all that. That didn't happen. But no, that would be great to see you all. There's still hotel rooms left. There's flights left, lots of them. I mean, Dublin is very well connected. And in the evenings, there's going to be lots of fun. I mean, I don't think drunk as much as I have in Dublin, to be honest.
Well, I don't drink anymore. So.
You don't drink anymore? Oh, good. We cannot drink together then.
Fine. Yep.
Or drink water. Right. Wonderful. So I'll put all your details into the show notes, or on YouTube, on in the group, and of course the links to the conference and anything else we need to add, and your course. And you were going to do a cheat sheet of sorts.
Yes, remind me about that, okay? Because I'm not going to do it right now, but I will get it done in the next day or two, and we can share it. We can put it in.
Wonderful.
I have it there. I just need to find it, but I'm going to. You know what's been going on today, so I'm going to go and
enjoy free time. Okay, all right, guys. I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Replay, and thank you for all the questions. And see you next week. Bye bye.